For this assignment, 4.5D, I am going to show the read aloud lesson for Miss Spider's Tea Party again. This is the same book that I did the other lesson on. And the author and illustrator is David Kirk. So for this lesson, the standard that I used was a kindergarten standard with prompting and support. Students will be able to orally describe the relationship between illustrations in the story in which they appear. And so, what I want to do with this reading was to choose another comprehension strategy um, that's appropriate for this age group, and that is making inferences. So, the lesson would begin like this. So, I could say, yesterday we read Miss Spider's Tea Party for the first time, and that's where we practiced trying to remember important details like who are the main characters? Who is the story about? What is the setting? Where does it take place? And also what happened. So today we're going to read it again, but this time we're going to read and try to connect the story and what we see in the illustrations or the pictures to try to make inferences or connections about what we've read. So, for example, I could start with the first page where it says, Two beetles gasped and ran away. And here I could say, look at the, let's look at this picture. And I want to think aloud and say, if I'm gasping and I run away, I think that means that you're scared. But the author doesn't tell us that they're scared. But I think that that's true. Why do you think that is? I'll tell you why I think that is. When I look at this picture and I see the beetles' faces, the beetles look scared and they look upset. And the author tells me they ran away. I know that if I'm scared and upset, that that's something I would do is run away. So let's keep looking. Each page, Miss Spider invites new bugs to her tea party. So what I would do next is I think the next one that has the best example for students to have some guided practice would be when on six, six ants refused to drink her tea. And so here I would give some guiding questions like, why do you think the ants' faces have that expression on them? Or why do you think they have that look on their face? What clues in the picture help you know that? And give them some time to respond. So ultimately, through this discussion, I want students to get to the conclusion that um, we know that spiders eat bugs, and all of these bugs are scared and running away from Miss Spider. So, because we know those things, we know in our life that spiders eat bugs, and we see in our story that the bugs are all running away from Miss Spider, we can assume and infer that the bugs are scared that maybe Miss Spider's going to eat them too. So that's one of the big inferences that I wanted to make in this lesson. Another one that I would also like to do with this story is um, trying to get the students to make a connection with how Miss Spider feels about all of this. So towards the end, there's a page where Miss Spider um, is sobbing. It says, Miss Spider sobbed. They all dashed off. And I would let's ask students to look at the picture closely. Explain that the word sobbed means crying. And I would say, why do we think Miss Spider might be sad? And I would give students time to think about this. Of course, that's a big inference to make, but if I'm not getting any good responses about why she might be sad, I might offer a sentence stem like, I think Miss Spider feels sad because, and then let students finish that sentence. Or I could say, the author doesn't say this, but I think Miss Spider feels sad because, and ultimately here, I want students to understand that, Miss Spider has set a table for a tea party. She's invited her guests, but no one came to her party. And more than that, they were running away from her. So I think most students can connect this feeling to their own lives and experiences that um, Miss Spider is feeling sad because she's lonely and she wants her friends to come to her party. So that's it for this reading aloud strategies. I feel like I could do so many more with this story, but that's it for this one.